Hi everybody, welcome to week 12 of the Volunteer to Career Support Programme. I'm just about to share the screen for today's slideshow, so just bear with me while I get that up and running. Here we go, screen. So today's session, I'm going to make it big for you, is going to be all about overcoming fear and self-doubt. Okay, so I know that this is a big part of pretty much every human being's journey, and how this can help us to thrive in the next chapter of our career. So I think if we've got knowledge on what's creating fear, it can be massively helpful for us when we're on our career journeys. So today's session is going to be a lot about how we can understand what fear really is and where it comes from and how we experience this as new starters, as volunteers. And then I'll talk a bit about understanding how to manage and overcome fear also, so that it doesn't hold us back anymore. So don't worry, I'm not going to tell you all about what it is and then leave you with, well, how am I actually going to overcome this? What am I going to do? We will have some plan on how you can overcome it. So a little bit of a Kickstarter, as we always love, just to get us into the spirit and the mood and the mindset. So let's just have a little moment to reflect on what one small act of kindness that someone did for you that had a big impact on your life. Okay, so it could be just one small act of kindness. So I'm just thinking what pops up for me. You can pause if you're watching back on record and just scribble it down and just reflect. For me, it's just when I've been studying and I've had like a lot on with writing assignments and studying, a really lovely thing that I found had the biggest impact on me was when other people offered to share examples of their work so that I could get a feel and just to see what could do. And for me, when anyone's ever offered to share, I've always been so massively grateful, because it's just allowed me to feel so much more at ease with what I was doing when it comes to assignment writing and doing things like that. So yeah, cup of tea forward. I always offer you to share what you've done with other people, because wow, it can be so helpful. Because people can get quite protective and worrying that they're going to copy it, and that's never been an issue for me. So that was what popped up for my mind today. So I'm just going to get stuck into this about understanding what is fear. This is where it all begins. If we can understand what is fear, then we can, I'm just moving that little box around so I've got my little camera in the box there. We can have an advantage, because if we understand the system and how it works, then we can easily reverse what's going on and we can settle down a lot more quickly. So with fear, it's what a lot of people describe as a primal response, natural system that gets triggered. Autonomic, we have no control over this. You can't stop it, you can't prevent it happening. So what happens is our brain will perceive a danger, and the body naturally goes into a state of what they call fight or flight. It's what I describe as an alarm system. It's alerting us, it's alarming us to a potential threat. It could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be any kind of threat. It could be a real life authentic threat too, like a car has just come out of nowhere and it could potentially put us in danger, like a dog comes running towards us. It could be a legitimate threat. It could also be a false alarm. Okay, so it can be irrational, it can be a false alarm, it can be influenced by past experiences, all experiences that we've had since birth, or it could even be a conditioned response, so something that we expect that's happened before and happened many times. So yeah, it's about understanding, is it a real life threat or is it a false alarm? like my alarm going off last week, my house alarm had a fault on it and it was going off at 6:30 in the morning. And quite clearly, initially, the fight and flight response got triggered within my system. I had no control over that. I'm running around the house checking, why is the alarm going off? What's going on? My husband's running one way. I'm running the other way. We're both desperately trying to stop this noise, this alarm. But once we knew that it was a false alarm, then the fight and flight response, the feeling within our body of disappeared. So despite it being discomforting and it can feel not so nice, it can also be what we need for us to grow and have courage and push through challenges. So if we've got an understanding on it, then it can really help us to navigate life and not miss out on opportunities and not live life small and not stay not like our life can get smaller and smaller if we don't understand this and don't overcome it. So a little bit about understanding the function of fear here. I'm just going to have to make that small just so I can see the slide. So yeah, understanding the function of fear. So as I've mentioned, it's important. It's got to alert us to dangers. It's physically and mental threats, guiding us to react. The fear that extends beyond the immediate danger. So it could be help us with making decisions in our everyday life. It can help us to make safe decisions and protect us and our emotional well-being. So there's a lot about fear. Fear has got its purpose and it's a good thing because it really does help us to protect ourselves, to safeguard ourselves. So it's our protective ally. It helps us to navigate the uncertainties of life and to create confidence. So not to see this as a problem, as an issue. Understanding how that we process it. Okay, so just a little bit about what goes on and what the body does with it. So it's the brain. It all comes from the brain. The brain is your best friend from the day that you were conceived until the end of time. The brain will always have the right to protect us. It has the brain will always override anything. Its number one job is to keep us safe and alive. I like to keep things simple. The brain's job is to keep you safe and alive. Okay, so it is fast. It perceives threats in nanoseconds and it acts like your bodyguard. So think of it as a great thing. Think of it as that you've got this amazing bodyguard that is always protecting you in every situation. But what happens when it does perceive something as a threat, whether it's a legitimate threat or a fear, F-E-R-E, fantasy experience appearing real. That's a really lovely acronym. I should have put that in here. Fantasy experience appearing real, i.e. a false alarm. No matter what, whether it's a false alarm or a real alarm, what will happen is, boom, adrenaline will kick in. Your heart will race. Your muscles will tense up. Your pupils will widen. Your mouth will go dry. All your things like your immune system, your digestive system, your logical thinking, your ability to think rationally, all those things leave the room. They all leave. It drops because the survival instinct kicks in and the priority is no longer fighting off the common cold or caring what you're wearing or being bothered, how do I look good in this? That kind of thing. Your cortisol, stress hormone, adrenaline, cortisol and adrenaline kicking. It puts you into a state of survival. So this is what happens. We literally are, all that matters is that we survive in that moment. Okay, so it's very helpful for surviving. And this is why I want you to really understand the difference between, is it a real alarm or is it a false alarm? because we don't want to be in this state 24 hours of a day, okay, because it's not good for us, because this is why people end up with health issues, continuous illnesses. So we want to understand this so that we can work with it. We'll use it to our advantage, because this has got its purpose. But a good way of looking at it is we're not designed to be in this state for more than 30 minutes per day. Okay, so if you think about how you feel, when was the last time that you felt really at peace and really at calm and really good? You want to be looking for aiming for 23.5 hours of the day. Okay, so the majority of the time you don't want to be in this response, this fight and flight response. Our brain, I've put here the ancient brain, is outdated for modern day living. Okay, so we developed right back in the day, the caveman days, where we had to have this response, because human beings would no longer be on this planet if we didn't have this really spectacular brain that could do this, that could sense danger so easily. It was developed for dangerous situations, running away from tigers, lions and tigers and bears. Oh my gosh, I love The Wizard of Oz. So sorry, I just remembered that, thought of that one. But it was designed, it's what's kept human beings walking this planet for so many years. But in modern day living, our brain is still hardwired to react to in this same manner when there is no legitimate threat. So we might be reading a work email, we might have a deadline, something might have popped up, we might have got an invite for our first interview. Our brain is hardwired to respond in this similar manner, even though it may be a false alarm. Okay, so rarely we'll see true physical threats. Rarely we have to run away from a tiger. But our brain, it just does not know the difference. Okay, it just does not know. So it will protect us. It has the right, remember, the brain is your bodyguard, and it has the right to protect you in every second of every day. And it will do that. It will do what it believes is the quickest way possible. But this can lead to stress, anxiety, and overreactions, okay, because they are very, very common. But unfortunately, it's not helpful sometimes, the way that the brain will send us a false alarm. So a little takeaway here. Our ancient brain is still wired for survival, but we no longer need that extreme response in our everyday life. There's many different fear responses as well. We will react in different ways. Some of these you may have heard of. So I've talked a bit about the fight and flight already. The fight, which involves readiness to confront fear, get anger, taking it on. I can run and run and run. I'm going to flip a car over. Okay, that's the fight. That's the superhuman power that kicks in when you cannot explain how I did that. Okay, so I once had to carry something really heavy in a little bit of an emergency situation. And when I then went back and tried to do that thing again, I couldn't even budge it. How do you explain that? That's the fight and flight kicking in. And the flight manifests as a strong urge to escape, to run, to get away. Okay. Freeze, I've not mentioned yet. And this is a freeze response, which is basically a complete temporary paralysis. It's an inaction in response to the fear, where you are in shock and overwhelm, and you just cannot do anything. You just freeze. You just don't know where to go or what to do. And another one, which is a bit less talked about, these are the four main fear responses, is fawn, which is a bit less recognised. But this response is what I would describe as coming from a health visiting background and working in child protection and safeguarding. I've witnessed lots of children that have this kind of response, where they are very withdrawn and they hold back, and they do everything. They go very quiet and they just follow suit, do as they're told, do everything. it's another way of describing this response is people pleasing, that you develop, because if there's lots of stressful situations posed to a person, they'll often develop a fawn response, which is pleasing others, just so that it's a survival instinct. It's another survival instinct. I'm going to do everything perfect. I'm not going to do anything wrong, because then I will not be in danger. So often in situations like these, as time goes on, it can lead to resentment and repression, of emotions. So it can lead to not putting yourself first. It can lead to putting everybody else before yourself, because this fawn response is a survival instinct. If I do everything, if I look after other people, if I do everything like that, then I'm going to survive. So it's another survival instinct, but a very little known and less talked about survival instinct. So yeah, I'd deem that one, if we were going to use the terminologies and all these fancy words that are out there, would be people pleasing. That's the way of describing that one. So having an understanding of these responses can be really helpful, because you can recognize yourself here in these different responses. And it can really help you to realize, oh, I don't need to do that anymore. I'm doing that because of this, but, fine, fair enough. Like, some of them are automatic, they are automatic responses, but it's what you do when you notice them that matters. So don't worry, I'll move on, and we will do some, towards the end of the session, we will look at how we can overcome this. So I'm not going to leave you in the lurch, and not knowing what to do with this. So how will it show up for us as people, as human beings, as volunteers, students, new members of staff? Okay, so these are just a couple of examples on how we might notice this response happening. So fear of rejection. Okay, you might get a little hesitancy in promoting yourself or your services or seeking opportunities, just mainly due to fear of it not working out or fear of being rejected. Because if we go back to the caveman days, if you didn't fit in with the tribe and you went out there alone, you would not survive. Okay, so fear of rejection is a big thing, because we're hardwired to be accepted. We're hardwired to get other people's recognition. We want to be liked and fit in. So fear of failure is another one, which can cause paralysis from taking a risk or making a necessary move. So it can keep us stuck. I call it neutral. We're stuck in neutral. We're not going forwards, we're not going backwards, we're just stuck. We're not going anywhere. So we can get that neutral feeling where we just don't make moves because we don't want to fail. Another one that's commonly talked about is perfectionism. I'm not going to move forwards or do anything until I've got this and got that, and I'm not going to, I can't apply for the job until I've got all the experience, until I can tick every box. Because we can have pressure to excel in all aspects. I've got to have everything perfect. I've got to have done all of these things, and it can really lead to fear of judgment, mistakes. So perfectionism is another form of fear that can prevent us from moving forwards. I always say, take action, imperfect action. It wins every time. There's no such thing as perfect. And other people actually quite like it when they see that you're not perfect either. They can connect with you better because they realise that you're the same like them, because nobody's perfect. Another example of how it might show up would be comparison and competition. Okay, they always say, don't they, that comparison is the thief of joy. I really do believe that expression, because if you compare where you're at on your journey and what you've achieved to others, then it's great if you can see that as an inspiration and see that comparison as a good thing and think, oh wow, I'm inspired to follow on in that person's footsteps. but when you feel that it's releasing a response within yourself of that feeling of fight and flight, or that feeling of jealousy or resentment, that's when we know this is not the healthy version that we're looking for. So you can, it can become a healthy version, but if you're releasing anxiety about comparing yourself against others and other people, and that's putting you in that neutral gear that I talk about, that's when we need to be aware of this and just notice that actually this is showing up in this way for me, and it doesn't need to be that way. And another thing is fear of visibility, so fear of being seen, scared of putting yourself out there, holding yourself back through fear of being judged. It can really hold a person back, from pursuing the dreams. Just take a sip. Too much chit chat for me this weekend. Although I once chatted solid for 26 hours solid and my voice did not go. I still had it after 26 hours. So anything's possible. Fear of failure. I think I've talked a bit about this. Survival brain. Failure once meant danger, but it doesn't anymore. It no longer means that. I've just a little summary here. I think I've forgotten to put the title on, but this is a summary. So, survival brain, like we've talked about, no longer means you're in danger. The brain just reserves the right to protect you from something that it thinks is a danger, and it gets it wrong. Sometimes it's a false alarm. So today it might still feel risky, but often we're dealing with a false alarm and no real risk. It could be that you feel that changing career, going for your dream, going for your passion, any change, we're wired up to see that as a danger, as a threat. But the truth is that failure and the threat is how we grow, is how we increase our comfort zone. They say you have to go into that comfort zone to expand it, to make it go bigger and bigger and bigger. So you can stretch your comfort zone. So in the future, what's currently your uncomfortable area will become your most relaxed and calm place to be. So we can reframe it from danger to development. And I will go on and do some more, and we'll go through some more things about how we'll get there. So just a little summary again. Judgment of fear and rejection. It's built in. We're hardwired. Caveman days, we lived in tribes. That meant safe. Rejection meant, threat. I'm going to get kicked out. I'm going to then not have the ability to have food, to have safety. All of the Maslow's hierarchy, the hierarchies. Oh, I've forgotten what it is. Of survival, the hierarchy of survival of warmth, food, water. They're not coming off the tip of my tongue today, but basically the essentials to survive. We wouldn't have them if we thought that and we were kicked out of our tribe, so we wouldn't survive. Whereas now we will have that because there's we're not in real danger from that external attack. Mirror neurons are interesting because the mirror neuron is our ability to empathize to other people. So if another person will give us like a smile and we'll give them that little smile back, human beings will naturally mirror each other. And that's also a part of survival and technique, and how it might show up in work, with meetings, with networking. So we can tame it if we understand it. We can be kind to ourselves and we can face it more gradually. So the bottom line being that rejection and fear is a natural human process. It doesn't mean you're different. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean that other people are better than you. really is, you're a real human, you're working perfectly well. So see that if your body is releasing these kind of responses, be like, oh, great, I'm working perfectly well. So why is it important that we navigate this effectively? Okay, so it's crucial in the world of career development because we're going to be taking some risks that don't feel comfortable. We're going to be innovating and we're going to be succeeding. We're going to be overcoming fear and allowing and embracing new opportunities. It can feel really liberating. It can really, give you a really big energy for being creative. It can really help us to get resilient in facing challenges. It can help us to, if we go towards it, we can naturally, bit by bit, not get that fight and flight response as often. It will gradually sort of simmer down and settle down. So we'll no longer release that. So it will have big health benefits. Our immune system, digestive systems, all our bodily functions and systems will work better. Our eyes, everything you'll see more clearly. There's just so many health benefits. In the mind, you're able to think more clearly and make better decisions, feel more confident, feel more calm. I've just got listed a few here, but I'm adding ones in. Confronting fear and opening more doors to more opportunities and just empowering us for growth and success and just feeling fulfilled. So how might you manage this? It helps to understand what it is that we're scared of. Sometimes you might never get the exact answer, but you can proactively do things to help identify it. So what have I put here? Fears are often masked by ultimately about avoiding harm. So that's what I mean there is that if you look at the things that you're avoiding, then bam, there's your answer. It comes from fear, and you might not have noticed it as fear. I'll give you an example. Okay, so I've been avoiding sitting for a lot of years, many years. I'd be standing, I'd move around, I'd not look forward to sitting because when I sat, I was always uncomfortable and I always had back pain following an accident. And I never saw it as fear. I just saw it as well, why would I do that if it brings on pain? But because I avoided it for so long, my body developed a conditioned response. So then every time I had to do that thing, I'd generate horrific back pain. And by noticing that as oh wow, I was avoiding that, I'm now going to overcome it. I'm going to gradually do that more. My back pain now is reduced a lot. I'm not saying it doesn't still happen, but I'm being able to overcome that. And I never noticed it as a fear. I would have never said I was scared of it because it was masked and I didn't see it in that way. And also rationalize fears. So break down fear triggering scenarios because it can be really helpful because you can have really big insights because you don't realize it until you actually look at it and think, what am I avoiding? And then you look at it and you think, oh, break it down a bit further. And then you can choose to reprioritize it, choose between a temporary discomfort and a potentially long-term regret or feeling. So for me, I might have that temporary discomfort of sitting, but in the long run, if I'd have known, I know now that if I'd have done that sooner, I might have avoided that potential long-term regret. So considerations here: biological preference for immediate rewards despite delayed risks. So staying in the day job for the instant comfort, for example. So staying where you are in neutral because you've made it through every day in your life. You're safe. It's perceived as, I'll just stay where I am because I've survived it so far. Or you can go for a little bit of temporary discomfort to get where you truly want to be. So the next part of the session will be how to overcome the fear. And I've put this word really big here, exposure. Okay, so by going the opposite way, for me, by not sitting, by spending my whole life on my feet moving around, I was never going to overcome my fear of sitting, which I described as my masked. It was hidden. I didn't even know it was there. I didn't even know it was a fear. But I've been able to do exposure now to overcome that. So how do you do this properly? Well, to begin with, I would definitely say it needs to become attractive. It needs to feel like something that you want. It needs to feel like appealing. So reframing the fear as an opportunity to grow rather than to be stressed. So let's think about if you've got a fear of putting yourself applying for your first role. And thinking that it's not going to work out, then a really good way to reframe that is, this is, even if it doesn't work out, I might get 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 no's, but yes lives in that land of no. So it will be a success as long as I shall go for it. That's a reframe rather than it's going to be a no, worst case disaster. Your body will naturally release that fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and you'll just get stuck in that feeling. Or actually, I can make it there. So it's just the language that we speak to ourselves in and how we reframe things is really powerful. Seeing it as an opportunity to get there. And nothing bad will happen. If it's a no, it's a no. It's just every no is a step closer to a yes. So making it obvious. So clearly identify what is it that you're wanting to do and then how you're going to confront it. Make it easy by breaking it down into little baby steps. Okay, so, learning to walk as a baby, as a child, I mean, if a baby had this sort of response, they'd never take them steps because of the fear of falling, face planting. So make it easy by doing it in a tiny little step. It doesn't start by just going for the full whammy. Bit by bit, just gradually ease yourself in there, starting with a low risk situation and making it appealing and satisfying, and celebrate the little steps as you go, because it reinforces courage and resilience. So this is important because bravery is not the absence of fear. I've done a lot. I'm sure you've all got many examples of things that you've done and felt brilliant for, but you brought the fear along with you for the ride. I've got loads of examples, especially scaling the top of very big mountains. Going across the peak of Crib Goch. That was probably one of the biggest ones where I was brave. I went over there and did that, but it definitely there was no absence of fear there, keeping me safe. But I knew that I was safe despite that. Bravery is not the absence of fear. It's just about having the courage to step into it and move forward. And it involves acknowledging the presence of it, being aware that it's a false alarm and that it's not a real danger, and choosing to just make those little baby steps to get there. Recognize that it's natural, keeps us safe, the bodyguard, the brain. Bravery entails pushing past the comfort zones. Like I said before, you will expand that comfort zone. So your current uncomfortable zone will become your future comfort zone. Use it as a fuel for growth. It's about proving to yourself and that you're capable of exceeding more than you currently believe. So this is just a quick and simple ideas on what you could do for yourself if you've identified a particular thing that might be keeping you stuck. And even if that's something you're avoiding, look for what you're avoiding. The answers are there. The things that you're avoiding are the things that you fear. And then you can tame it. You can tame down that fear. You could write a list down the fears. And if you're struggling, you're thinking, I can't think of anything, we'll reword that for avoidance. What am I avoiding? What's this really about? Worst case, then what? Question yourself. You know, be a detective and say, is this really dangerous? Is this a real legitimate fear? Is this true, or am I imagining this? Okay, so really just challenge yourself. Is it true, or is it an imaginary? What's likely to happen? And then just agree on a small action, a small thing that you can take to make a step closer to that. Make it attractive, like we said, make it appealing, make it really easy, make it really rewarding, make it really obvious. So for me, I'll give you an example in a second. So set a deadline and get support if you need it. Get help. 8.5 billion people in this world. There's going to be someone who's going to really want to help you. So for me, with the sit-in thing, that I realised the avoidance was a fear, I made it really easy in the beginning. I made it really attractive. I made it really rewarding. It was a really small step. And it was just, I'm going to sit here. And I know this seems really small, but I'm going to sit here, literally. It was literally aiming for 2 minutes. I'm going to sit here for 2 minutes. I'm going to expect it to go well. I'm going to expect I've no need for pain, because the fear response would generate pain. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with my body. I'm a perfectly healthy human. I'm going to sit here for 2 minutes. I'm going to expect it to go really well. I can do this. And I start so small, bit by bit. It's what they call exposure, gradual exposure. And if you're not able to even do that for real, another really great way of beginning this is to be able, I'd say, before you do anything in real life, if you can imagine yourself in your own mind, whether it's visualizing, whatever word you want to use, make believe, imagining, if you're not able to do that in your own mind first, start with that. Start with dreaming. Start with just closing your eyes, just imagining. Just get comfy. Imagine yourself doing it. So if it was for me, like leading an online session, I would just, if the thought of it was too much, I wouldn't just go on in there and do it. I'd get myself to a point where I could imagine it going well. Because if you're able to get fear and you're able to be scared of a certain situation, then that means that you're able to visualize really, really well. You're able to imagine things really, really well. But you're just really good at doing what you don't want, imagining what you don't want. So if you can have a go at imagining what you do want and get comfortable with that feeling, get comfortable with the feeling of it going really well, you feel really good doing it, that's where it begins. It's powerful stuff. Powerful, powerful stuff. So just imagine it that way. I've managed to build myself up to running 100-mile ultra marathons with this approach. There was no way I was going to go out there and without releasing a massive amount of fear and go and do that in the very beginning. I had to get comfortable with imagining myself, knowing that was possible for me. And it went in a lot of steps over a lot of years. So a really small plan of gradually exposing yourself to doing something like this can turn into something huge. And it can be so helpful for those around you too. Hope you've heard something in this session that's going to be really helpful for you moving forwards with your next steps, applying for roles, having some understanding on what's happening, how quickly it can be reversed, with messages of safety and messages of calm to the nervous system as soon as we realise, oops, I'm just releasing that cortisol and adrenaline. My brain is being a bodyguard. It's perceived the invite for an interview as a real life emergency, and it's released all the hormones that want me to go fight a tiger, but there is no tiger here. You're going to do really well. You really are. So thank you so much for your involvement, getting involved in this group, your commitment to volunteering. We appreciate you so much. Please always reach out if you need further help. Massive, massive thank you. Stop sharing my screen and come back into the room. And we will see you all for round 3. We're going to be relaunching a group effort, so it's going to be even bigger and even better is our next round of the Volunteers to Career Support Programme. So you will be getting your invites at some point towards the end of May, we're aiming for. We'll keep you updated on email, and really look forward to seeing you all next time. I'm going to stop recording, and please get in touch and we'll see you all next time. Thank you.